Start the record. Open your Navigator. Okay. Let's launch the Jupyter Notebook. So OOPS is the last concept from the Python programming language. Okay. Once the Python is done, then the session has been done actually. What's your batch name? Arvind, right? Models and exception handling, file handling models. It's fine. Now we'll look for the Python 3. Oops, right. What is oops? What is oops? Tell me anyone, what is oops? Guys, can you hear me or not? My question is, what is...
Object-oriented programming language.
Yes, that's correct. Oops means object-oriented programming language. Okay. So object-oriented programming language means, for example, if any programming language having the following features. Okay. If any programming language is having the following features, then that kind of programming language, we can say it's a object-oriented programming language. Okay. Now, so here, if any programming language having this kind of features like data hiding, data encapsulation, method overriding, okay, and method overloading, okay, and polymorphism, and inheritance, Okay, if any programming language is following this kind of features, then that particular programming language we can call it's a object-oriented programming language. Clear? But you know, but you know, but if any programming language which is following the following features, because of it may having the two components. Okay, what are those components? The first component is method, sorry, class. Okay, second component is object. So class and object. If any programming language is having the class and object, then that programming language it may follow these features. If a programming language doesn't have this kind of components, so which cannot be followed these features. Okay, now we'll look what exactly the class. So what is class? So class means it's a very simple thing. So it's a logical entity, or it is logical entity. So logical entity that we are calling it's a class. So logical entity in the sense, for example, if you want to create something, that we have to do first of all a prototype, right? Or else template, right? That thing we are calling it's a class. Okay, logical entity of an object. Here, object is a physical entity, class is the logical entity. Okay, if you want to create the physical entities, make sure that you should have the logical entity. Okay, for creating the classes, we have a class keyword. With the help of the class keyword, we can create the class. So how we can create the class? The class keyword followed by the class name. You can give any name, whatever the name you want to give it, you can give it. Open parenthesis and close it parenthesis. Okay. Inside of it, it might have the some kind of attributes. So you can say that class means it's a collection of attributes. Okay, class means it's a collection of attributes. You can say it's a logical entity. Logical entity means it's nothing but it's a collection of attributes. How we can able to collect the attributes? With the help of the class keyword and followed by the class name, and inside of it you may creating the attributes. So this is the way you can able to go for creating the a class. Can you please note this syntax? All right. Now, so after you creating the class only, you can create the objects. If you're not creating the class, we can't create the objects. Okay, so now we'll talk about the object. Object means which is the physical entity, of a class. For example, if we have a class, for that one we have to create some kind of space or memory location with some specific name that we are calling its object. So object can be created with simple thing, object name followed by the whatever the class you want to be used for creating the object, that particular class name, and open parenthesis and closed parenthesis. So with help of the class name, we can creating the object. So with help of this object, we can access the attributes from this particular class. Okay. let's do some example. I would like to go for creating the class. Okay, class creation. How we can create the class? So class keyword and followed by the class name. For example, student, open parenthesis and close parenthesis. Here student is my class name. So every student, you might have the name, right? So by default you can consider you don't have anything, so you can say that name is 0 or none. For example, roll number. Okay, by default it doesn't have anything, so that you can say, so every student he might have the name and roll number, right? Okay, and yeah, so after you creating this two attributes, name and roll number, we can't do anything actually with help of this one without object. So now I would like to go for creating the object one. With help of the single class, you can able to go for creating the multiple objects. Object 2, if you want to create the one more object, that means one more student, you can create it. This is the way you are creating the object 1 and object 2. This object 1 can have the attributes of student class. Object 2 can have the attributes of same student. So which means that with help of the with help of this one, we are going to be creating the two spaces, two memory locations. Okay, so one memory location is object 1, second memory location is object 2. So inside of the object 1, what we might have it, whatever the things we have it, it just simply and copy and paste here. So here you should have the name. By default name it could be the none, and here we have the roll number. Okay, so whatever the information we have in student, so same attributes could be copied and pasted in the object 2 also. Here also you have the name, and here also we have the roll number. So with help of the single class, we are creating the two namespaces. Clear? So after you creating this object 1 and object 2 with help of the student class, I want to print the name and roll number of the object 1. Simply you can we can't directly access. Make sure that you should have the object. Okay, and print object name and object 1 of the roll number. So meanwhile object 2, I just want to be called the object 2 information. By default we don't have anything, so that everything could be none, 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 none only, right? Now what I want to do, I want to be modify the one object 1 information. Object name, instead of the none, I can make it as the for example Rajesh. Okay, and so object 2, object 1 of roll number, I'm modifying as so S45. Okay, after you modifying the object 1, is there any effect in object 2 or not? We'll see now. I think we don't have any reflection in object 2. We are just modifying only object 1 information. Okay, because of object 1 is different memory location, object 2 is different memory location, so that we can able to modify the object 1. It cannot be replicated to the object 2 actually. Clear? Clear or not? So
Yes.
can you please execute this program? Done, right? Now I would like to go for creating the functions inside of the classes. that also we will do it. So how we can do it actually? So for example, we have a def keyword. How we are going to be creating the function? Same way we can able to go for creating the functions inside of the classes. Okay. So def followed by the function name, right? For example, modif or assign. So I would like to go for assigning the data. Okay. To name. So if you want to be give the name, if you want to modify the name, that you can modify. So I would like to go for accessing the input from the user. Okay. In the meanwhile, I would like to go for name, and for example roll number. Okay, so input of you know, roll number. So this time cannot use these things. Okay, so now what I can do, so if you want to be, we can't directly assigning the data to the name and roll number. For example, you have to call this particular function, right? Assign function. So if you want to call it, you can use the a dot assign. This situation, we are going to be getting an error. So which means that this is the object one. It will be sending as the input for the at function definition. So that we have to be give the name, at least one name you should provide it. Okay. So for example, the name, it can be anything. You can use the self. Okay. So this time you are creating the object one, you're calling the assign function. So you can assigning the name, for example, Rajesh. Okay. So you're assigning the name is Rajesh. For example, you're assigning the roll number is 45. But I want to be call this name and I want to print this name and roll number from another function. Okay. So access is my another method. So make sure that at least one argument we require, right? And for example, I want to print the name. I want to print the name. Okay. So you can use the name over here. I want to print the roll number also. So roll number also I want to print it. Okay. So you just call the object one dot access. So this time you enter the name is Rajesh and you enter the roll number is S45. But by the time of accessing, we are getting an error, right? We don't have the name and we don't have the roll number, but roll number and name is there in another function. So what happens here, this is the things are the local variables. So we can't access these names in another function. Okay. These names I want to be used as a global. Make sure that whatever the name we are using, whatever the argument we are using as the first thing, that you can provide self dot roll number. Then if you want access self dot name, by the time of another function also we can use it. So this time we can use the, you can enter the Rajesh and you enter the roll number is 45 that you are going to be accessing, right? So here what exactly the self is doing, or the first argument what exactly it is doing, which is accessing, holding the data of the object one, and this object one information will be holding into the self. So and moreover what exactly which is doing, if you're creating any variable with help of this self, then it could be the global to that particular object only. Okay. So this is the way you can able to go for creating the methods inside of the classes. Previously you created only variables, right? But we can create the functions inside of the classes also. Okay. Can you please execute this program, Rajesh? Done, right? Rajesh,
Sir.
is it completed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's for today's session. We'll meet tomorrow. We'll finish it oops by tomorrow's session. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Bye.